Well, hello. I just want to thank you for taking the time to check in with us as we celebrate our 50th anniversary with the Employer Support the Guard Reserve. To help us do that, we're interviewing some of our volunteers that have given long service, worked hard to ensure that the partnership between our reservists and their employers is a healthy and strong relationship so that they can continue on their path of maintaining two different career paths. And what's interesting about this is ESGR was formed right after the Department of Defense determined that the volunteer force was the best way for the future of our military. And once that decision got made, then we understood that if we're going to rely more and more on the Guard Reserve to perform our national defense requirements and to respond effectively to all the domestic issues that we face, such as fire, flood, earthquake, border defense, counter-drug operations, pandemic response, you name the challenge, and our Guard Reserve are being called into service. And without volunteers like our volunteer here today to be interviewed, Harold Elkan, they wouldn't be able to establish a full understanding of their responsibilities and connect with their employers in a way that transitioning to and from service, both to their state and their nation, was a smooth operation. So we're very indebted, Harold Elkan is an individual that deals with our Marines. He's the director of the Marine Reserve Program and our military outreach efforts, and he has been a volunteer for over a decade, providing services to our Marines and to their employers. Harold, we're delighted to have you join us here today, and can't say enough about all the great service that you've provided. And we have a few questions. Before we get started, I'd just like if you would tell us what brought you to ESGR. Why did you make the decision to volunteer and provide that support?
Well, first of all, Jim, thanks for inviting me. It's a pleasure. What brought me to ESGR? I had a business partner who's a mutual friend of both of ours. Retired Major General Keneally. And speaking with him one day, I said, Dennis, I spent 6 years in the Army. I feel naked. What can I do to help our military? I said, I want to do something, but be it sitting on a committee or is there anything I can do? And he looked at me and said, I've got the perfect solution for you. And he introduced me to ESGR. In fact, he sponsored me with ESGR. And it's turned out to be not only the right move, but better than I could have anticipated. So I was looking for some way of working with and helping our military. We can call it giving back, if you will. But I spent 6 years in the Army. And reflection, I wish I'd stayed in longer. So there was an affinity with the military, and I wanted to stay with it. And that's what got me involved.
Great. Well, what's interesting to me is you made the decision to come in, but you made a lot more decisions later to stay with it and to support it. What would compel you to do that? What do you get out of doing this?
Well, what I get out of it is you can't calculate it in dollars. It's there's a satisfaction. When some guard or reservist walks up to you and says thank you, versus me walking up and saying thank you for your service, they walk up to me and say thank you, and that's big. That's really big. And it goes beyond money.
Well, Harold, after over 10 years of providing service, I'm sure you've done a lot of different things as a volunteer. I'm a little curious as to what you actually did. I mean, are there certain skills or talents that you provide to the ESGR program that you could tell us about?
Well, my background is I was a corporate executive. I did public speaking, television interviews. So I'm used to getting up in front of crowds or in front of a camera. And when I first joined, I was kind of floating. I didn't know what I wanted to do, and ESGR wasn't sure where I fit either. But I was, I don't know, a year or so into it, and I was offered the opportunity to become an ombudsman. And I said, what in the world is an ombudsman? And when it was explained to me that under ESGR, an ombudsman is the individual who actually interfaces with a Guard or reservist who's having difficulty with their civilian employer and is a mediator. Well, I've been a negotiator all my life, so that's not a big step going from negotiating to mediating, although they are two different animals. And actually, I was scheduled to go to two ombudsman schools. They both got canceled. Finally, they had one. They said, do you want to go to Miami to a school? And I said, sure, I'll go to Miami. And I've never looked back. I absolutely love being an ombudsman. It just fit me to a T.
Well, obviously, you hold the title of military outreach for the Marine Reserve. So that must have led you to have some favorite times or experiences with the Marine Reserve. Could you share a little bit of that with us?
Sure. That was a secondary position, actually, appointment. You're the guy I blame for appointing me to the Marine Corps Reserve. But again, it fit me. I do, as you know, I do USERRA, which is the federal law that protects Guard and Reservists' legal rights with their civilian employer, and I do briefs on that law to the Marine Corps Reserve. Although I also have on occasion covered Coast Guard, Army Reserve, and National Guard, and Navy. But my focus these days is Marine Corps Reserve, and I cover the state. Although I think between Camp Pendleton and Air Station Miramar, that's about 2/3 of the Marine Corps reserved for the state of California. And the Marine Corps has just welcomed me in. Marine Corps, as you know, is kind of like a brotherhood, and they've just welcomed me in. And it's amazing. I will go in and do a brief, and the questions start coming. More questions after the brief than during the brief. But when a reservist walked up to me and says, "Hey, thank you. You really helped me today." Or the commander walks over and says, "Hey, I appreciate you taking the time to come out and brief us." I mean, that's big. Those are the kind of thank yous. I mean, we talk about the fact that we don't get paid for this. Yes, we do. We get paid with compliments that you can't go by.
But I think that's terrific. I mean, because it is uplifting when you see that your service matters to the people that you're providing it to, and I think that's huge. And I know that you're well thought of throughout the Marine community because of your volunteer service. As we close in on this thing, I want to remind our viewers that the volunteers within the country are over 3,000. These individuals are so important to the well-being of the relationship between the Guard and Reserve, and they come from all walks of life. Prior military, a lot of them are in business, industry, government, education. They came from all over, and you'll find that there's a special family atmosphere among the volunteers that exist in the ESGR. And we are anxious to build our ranks with new volunteers, so we'd ask you to consider that. But I'd like to leave on a note. What was your favorite moment? What was a particular event as you were volunteering that stands out in your mind as one of those special days?
Oh wow, there's so many. I would say there's two events, and I alluded to them earlier. One is, as an ombudsman, when you're able to save a reservist, guard or reservist job, and they say, hey, I don't know how to thank you. You saved my job. I mean, you walk away and you say, you know what? I did something important today. I impacted somebody's life in a positive way. You know, that's monumental. That when you think about it, you affect somebody's life. And it's the same thing when I have a reservist walk up to me after doing a brief, and they say, God, I didn't know that. You really helped me. Doesn't get any better than that. I think that's it right there. And then if there's a third, it's you just meet some great people in ESGR. I mean, I really made some close friends and we all have something in common. And it's a brotherhood, a sisterhood, if you will. We have, as you know, both men and women. I don't know how to expand on that.
Well, I don't know that you can. I think my experiences parallel yours in that regard, and that's why we're here, to make a difference in the quality of life of those people that are struggling to maintain two careers, one with the employer and one in the military. And we are deeply indebted, Harold, to you and all that you've done to contribute to that effort. And the mission gets accomplished exactly because of volunteers just like Harold. Harold, we're delighted that you spent some time with us. We deeply appreciate all the service you've provided. And we look forward to talking to you more in the future. So take care, and thank you for joining us.
My pleasure. Thank you.